Brilliance Audio.
The Echo of Old Books by Barbara Davis. Performed by Vanessa Johansson, Steve West, and Sarah Zimmerman. There is nothing quite so alive as a book that has been well loved. Ashlyn Greer, The Care and Feeding of Old Books. September 23, 1984. Portsmouth, New Hampshire. As was often the case on Sunday afternoons, Ashlyn Greer was on the hunt, this time in the messy back room of a vintage boutique situated 2 blocks from An Unlikely Story, the rare bookstore she'd owned and operated for nearly 4 years. She'd received a call yesterday from Kevin Petrie, the boutique's owner, alerting her that a guy from Rye had brought in several cartons of books, and he didn't have room to stock them. Did she want to come take a look? It wasn't the first time she'd spent her lone day off digging through boxes for lost treasure. More often than not, she came away empty-handed, but not always. Once she'd scored a first printing of All Creatures Great and Small, unread as far as she could tell. Another time she had rescued a first edition Lost Horizon from a carton of old cookbooks. It had been badly neglected, but after an extensive rehab, she netted a tidy profit. Such finds didn't happen often. In fact, they almost never did. But on the rare occasions when they did, the thrill made all the digging worth it. Unfortunately, today's boxes weren't looking particularly promising. Most of the books were hardbacks, recent bestsellers by Danielle Steele, Diane Chamberlain, and the much-lauded king of ugly cry novels, Hugh Garrett. Esteemed authors, to be sure, but hardly rare. The second carton offered a more eclectic mix, including several health and nutrition books, one guaranteeing a flat tummy in 30 days, another touting the benefits of a macrobiotic diet. She worked quickly, careful not to hold on to any of the books for too long, but it was hard not to pick up subtle vibrations as she returned them to the carton. They had belonged to someone who was sick and afraid, someone worried about running out of time. A woman, she was almost certain. It was a thing she had, a gift, like perfect pitch or a perfumer's nose, the ability to read the echoes that attach themselves to certain inanimate objects, books, to be precise. She had no idea how it worked. She only knew it had started when she was 12. Her parents had been having one of their knockdown dragouts, and she'd slipped out the back door and hopped on her bike, pedaling furiously until she reached the cramped little bookshop on Market Street. Her safe place, as she'd come to think of it, and still thought of it. Frank Atwater, the store's owner, had greeted her with one of his taciturn nods. He knew what it was like for her at home, everyone in town knew. But he never once broached the subject, opting instead to offer a refuge when things between her parents became unbearable. It was a kindness she'd never forgotten. On that fateful day, she had made a beeline for her favorite corner, where the children's books were stocked. She knew every title and author by heart, as well as the precise order in which they were shelved. She'd read them all at least once. But that day, 3 new books had appeared. She ran her fingers along the unfamiliar spines. The Story of Dr. Dolittle, The Mystery of the Ivory Charm, and The Water Babies. She pulled The Water Babies from the shelf. That's when it happened. A zingy little shock running along her arms and into her chest. And so much sadness. She suddenly couldn't breathe. She dropped the book. It landed at her feet, splayed open on the carpet like a felled bird. Had she imagined it? No. She'd felt it, physically. A pain so real, so raw, that for an instant, tears had sprung to her eyes. But how? Wary, she retrieved the book from the floor. This time she let the feelings come. A throat scorched with tears, shoulders racked with loss, the kind that showed no mercy and had no bottom. Back then she'd had no frame of reference for that kind of anguish, the kind that imprinted itself on the body, etched itself into the soul. She simply sat there trying to make sense of it, whatever it was.